I became interested in this case, in Jonathan's case, in around 2000. And I discovered that there are two types of spies: those that spy for an enemy and those that spy for an ally. And in 2000, it was right around Christmas, I went to a fundraiser for President Clinton. I met him personally and handed him a letter that proved that Jonathan's sentence was dramatically more severe than that of any other person on record who spied for an ally. Of the 14 cases that I found and that I refer to in the letter of individuals convicted of spying for an ally, the average sentence for that offense is 2 to 4 years. The range was from 0 years to a maximum of 14. But by 2000, the date of my letter, the time that Jonathan had already served was greater than the maximum sentence on record. In fact, his life sentence was the same as the sentences handed down to America's greatest traitors who spied for our enemies, such as Aldrich Ames, whose treachery ended in the deaths of American agents, and John Walker, who revealed our nuclear submarine positions to the Soviets. So it was a terrible injustice, Jonathan, that you were sentenced to such an egregious, outrageous term of life, of which you served 30 plus 5 years of parole. Terrible.
Two things to point out. Number one, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, in an interview, indicated quite openly that my sentence was intended as a cautionary threat to the American Jewish community to remember where their loyalties lay. It's quite clear about it. And so in answer to a question about why was it so severe, that's the answer he gave. As far as sentencing is concerned, as I've always indicated to people, one of the problems I've had was defending myself against charges, false charges of having done incalculable harm to the United States. As I said, the actual facts are different, and after 20 years, I found them. But there's a very simple, logical defense that I can run, which is as follows. If you look at my indictment, it says quite clearly, without intent to harm the United States. Okay. I think you and your listeners would agree that there is some information that is so sensitive that if it were compromised with the finest of motives to the closest of allies, that the harm to national security would be incalculable. Things like codes, things like agent names, things like war plans. And under those circumstances, the defendant, the agent, should have been indicted for intending to harm the United States because he should have known better.
Should have known, right. Even though it was unintentional,
in my case,
he or she should have known.
Case,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And in my case, the fact that I was not charged with intent to harm the United States should alert people to the reality, to the truth behind what I actually did. Because if I had done as all the damage that they claim I did, I should have been indicted for intent to harm the United States. And they couldn't bring it because there was no evidence. So in those cases, what happens is if you can't bring facts to bear, you go ad hominem. And I was accused of things that were, it was unbelievable. They threw everything they could at me to damn me as a really wretched individual. I remember once in prison, I was listening to NPR, and they had an intelligence officer from the CIA on, active service officer, and he related this story that I was actually the head of an Israeli mafia operation on the East Coast that was responsible for bringing in the bulk of the heroin onto the East Coast. So I'm listening. So when I walked out on the compound, all the drug dealers mostly the black guys came up to me saying, "My man,
yeah,
we didn't know you're the man. Who was your connection? We want to know. We want their names because we want to get in touch with them. We want our guys getting in touch with them." So for about a day, I was a god on camp. I was the horse dealer. Horse is the name for heroin. I was the horse doctor on the compound. And my only comment to the press through my lawyers were, if I had access to that kind of money, do you think I would have hired this piece of crap for a lawyer that couldn't even file an appeal within 10 days? Everybody thought that was funny. And they realized it was just hooey. It was just absolutely ridiculous.